Hello and welcome to Botany 101. My name is Angela Nishimoto. Today our topic is the leaves of the plant. Okay? We went through the roots, we went through the stems, and now we're going through the leaves. Okay? So we're going to talk about the leaf and its functions, what it does. We're going to talk about simple leaves and compound leaves. We're going to talk about specialized leaves, deciduous leaves, and the uses of leaves. Okay? So first of all, leaves. A leaf functions as a solar panel. What does it do? It harvests light energy and converts it into chemical energy. Okay? Harvest light energy from the sun, convert it into chemical energy in the process known as photosynthesis. Okay. Now, leaves all start as a leaf primordia. Okay. So all leaves start as leaf primordia. And that's this here, little tiny little leaf. Okay. So this little leaf, and of course here's the meristem, the apical meristem, lateral buds, right? Here's a trace of vascular tissue. Here's another trace of vascular tissue in this larger leaf. Okay, here are trichomes or hairs on the leaf. Okay, so all leaves start as leaf primordia. Okay, and this leaf primordia may consist of less than 200 cells. Okay, but after the cells multiply, okay, and differentiate and expand, there may be millions of them, okay, in the leaf. So most leaves have a blade or lamina. We talked about that last time. And then it has a leaf stem known as a petiole or a petiole. Okay, so here is the blade, this part here. It's a flattened solar panel that does most of the photosynthesis. Okay, and you can see here that the blade has veins in it. Okay, the veins actually correspond to the vascular bundles that we've talked about before. Okay, now so some leaves do not have a petiole. Okay, so when they don't have a petiole, the blade sits right on the stem. And that kind of leaf is called sessile, okay, when it doesn't have a petiole, all right? Now in temperate areas and tropical areas, all right, the leaves of deciduous trees live for one season, okay, but even evergreens, the leaves will actually live for about 2 to 7 years. So they do have a lifespan. Okay, now a simple leaf is made up of a single blade. It means the blade is not dissected. Okay, now a compound leaf, okay, has a blade divided into leaflets. Okay. Now pinnately compound leaves, okay, have the leaflets along a central part, an extension of the petiole called the rachis or rachis. Okay, pinna means feather, sort of like feather shaped. Okay, pinnately compound. And then palmately compound leaves have the leaves attached to one point on the petiole. So these are some leaves of an octopus tree here. Okay, so here are the leaflets. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the side table now and take a look at some of the things they're talking about. Okay. So here we have kukui, okay? You can see by the leaves that it has hairs on the leaves, right? By this kind of grayish coloration that it has, right? And this stem, on this stem you can actually see nodes where the petiole is attached, where the leaf is attached, and internodes, the area between the nodes. Now this particular stem top, it has alternate leaf arrangement, phyllotaxy. Remember phyllotaxy that we talked about before? So you actually have one leaf at each node. okay? And also at each node, you also have a tiny little bud, okay? Remember that at the node, you have the leaf coming off and you have a bud, which is a potential stem, okay? So we have node, node, internode, axillary bud, and at the tip you have these other buds. And this one happens to be going to be in flower. So these are floral buds instead of a vegetative bud, okay? But what you can see from here is that this leaf, okay, this kukui leaf, Alerites mollicana, is a simple leaf. The blade is all in one piece, okay? Blade and petiole. Now I want to show you other leaves so you can see the variety of leaves, okay? So we can actually look at this Indian pennywort, okay? Indian pennywort, all right? You can see the leaf is kidney-shaped or reniform, right? So leaves can be almost any shape that you can think of, okay? Any can be hairy, it can be smooth, okay? It can be full of water, it can be very thin, right? So leaves come in all appearances. So this happens to be a kidney-shaped leaf or reniform leaf, and this is Indian pennywort. And Indian pennywort is actually an herbal plant that you can use both internally and externally. You can eat the leaves. Okay, there's a saying that if you eat 3 leaves a day, that you will live a very long life. Okay, that's a saying from South Asia. Okay, not just that, but I think the leaves can be mashed up and be used on open wounds to kind of help it heal. Okay, so this is an example of an herbal plant that can be used both externally and internally. Okay, the Indian pennywort, right? Now here we have a leaf of a ficus, like a fig tree, okay, one of those rubber trees, and this is just to show you that we have here like a sort of like a curved leaf with a blade and petiole. And this is also showing variegation that happens when you have white patches or light patches on a leaf that's green. It could either be white and green, or it could be white, green, and red. That means variegation. And generally, variegation is detrimental to the organism because the variegation means that there's less chlorophyll in the leaf, so less photosynthesis goes on. So that means that the plant usually won't grow as tall or as fast as other plants that are not variegated, okay? Now this here is a leaf from peace lily, also known as spathiphyllum. Here you can see the petiole and the blade. And this is a long lanceolate leaf, kind of lance-shaped, okay? This is just showing you more leaf variation. So all the leaves that we've talked about until now, the kukui, the Indian pennywort, the ficus, and also the spathiphyllum, they're all simple leaves. And now we're going to talk about some of the more compound leaves, okay? So this here is ule, okay, osteomeles anthellidifolia. And this one here has pinnately compound leaves. This is a stem, okay? This is along here is a stem. And then you have this whole thing is one leaf made of leaflets, okay? So why are these leaflets and not leaves? Well, at the base of a leaf, you'll find a bud, okay? The bud isn't always apparent. Sometimes the bud is under the epidermis, but generally at the base of a leaf, you'll find a bud, okay? At the base of a leaflet, there is no bud. There is no bud here, there's no bud here. Anyway, so this is a pinnately compound leaf. This is a pinnately compound leaf, okay? So this is ule, a native Hawaiian plant. Now another plant that has pinnately compound leaf is called areca palm, all right? So this here is showing very well the pinnately compoundedness of it, like a feather. Okay, this is what they call the feather palm. When you have the leaflets coming off to the side of the rachis like this, okay? And then here we have something called Royal Poinciana or Delanex regia, okay? And this actually has bipinnately compound leaves, okay? So this whole thing is one leaf. This whole thing is one leaf, okay? So it's twice pinnately compound because this once pinnately compound, this is a leaflet, and each leaflet has leaflets. Okay, so this is an example of a bipinnately compound leaves. Okay. Now we come to the palmately compound leaves. Okay, so this is octopus tree. Okay, octopus tree, Schefflera actinophila. Okay, and the leaflets, so these are leaflets, there's no bud at the base of the leaflet, but all the leaflets actually are attached to a single point, like the fingers on the palm of your hand. Okay, so this is an example of a palmately compound leaf. Okay, good example. This is the same one that was on the slide that we just saw. Okay. And we also have rhapis palm. Now this one here looks like a palmately compound leaf. It's palmate, yes, but it's not quite palmately compound because divisions don't go all the way to the base of the leaflet. So this is actually an entire leaf, a whole single leaf, okay, but palmate in shape. And then this is has 3 leaflets. Okay, so is it pinnately compound or is it palmately compound? Okay, it's actually termed a different term. It's called trifoliate, also known as ternate, T-E-R-N-A-T-E. Okay, so those are some of our simple leaves and compound leaves. Okay, we'll go back to the computer. Okay, here we are again. Okay, now a leaf. What do leaves do? They do photosynthesis. That's the main thing they do. Now photosynthesis actually allows the use of inorganic substances such as carbon dioxide and water, and using the energy from the sun, converting carbon dioxide and water into sugars and oxygen gas. Okay? So photosynthesis is actually the most important biochemical reaction on Earth. All energy needs of all living things depend upon photosynthesis. So we've seen this little image before, right? See here, water is split by light in the light reactions, gives us oxygen gas, okay? Generates ATP and NADPH, okay, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, okay, or reduced nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. And these two chemicals go into the Calvin cycle, where carbon dioxide also comes in. And then after several turns of the Calvin cycle, you'll have the production of sugar, okay? So this is a remarkable thing, that plants can actually take air and water and convert it into food for the whole planet. Okay, so that's what plants do. They do this miracle called photosynthesis. Okay? Now, the leaf also has stomates or stomata with guard cells. Okay, so stomata are pores on the surface of the leaf. Here they are on the upper epidermis. Okay? Just showing that. All right? So they're usually more on the lower surface of the leaf, but sometimes it can be on the upper surface as well. Okay? Now they function in gas exchange. Okay? So generally carbon dioxide goes into the stomate and oxygen gas comes out of the stomate. Remember what we just talked about? Carbon dioxide is the gas that the plant uses to help make sugars, right? And oxygen gas is a byproduct of photosynthesis and given off. So when the guard cells are turgid or full of water, the stomate opens. So the stomate itself is a hole. It's like a pore in the leaf, okay? And then the guard cells are like kidney-shaped cells around the stomate that open when the guard cells are full of water and turgid, or when they're flaccid or lose water, the guard cells come together and the stomate closes. Okay, so one of the most important things that stomates do is they do gas exchange. Okay, generally carbon dioxide in, oxygen gas out. Okay. Now they also do transpiration. Okay, transpiration is the evaporative loss of water from the leaves through the stomates. Okay, so the guard cells control water loss. Okay, so most water that reaches the leaf is lost through transpiration. Okay, it might seem wasteful, but that's just the way the plant does it. Okay. We have a review of phyllotaxy. Okay, so here we have an example of an alternate leaf arrangement with one leaf at each node, right? Alternating sides. And here we have an example of opposite leaf arrangement, okay, where the leaves are opposite each other, two at each node. And here we have an example of a whorled leaf arrangement with more than two leaves at each node, three or more. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one has 7 at the node. Okay, a good example of a whorled leaf arrangement. Okay. Now we have different kinds of venation. We talked about this just a little while ago. But dicots, remember dicots, they have differences from monocots, right? So dicots have 2 cotyledons when the seed is germinating, right? When the roots develop from the seed, they develop a taproot system, right? And also in the stem, the vascular bundles in the stem are arranged in a circular pattern or in a ring around the periphery of the stem. And then now we find out that dicots have netted or reticulate veins. Okay? So you can have pinnate veins, where the secondary veins come off the midrib of the leaf. And you can have palmate veins, where the main veins come off of one point. Okay? Similar, like the fingers coming off the point of your hand. Okay? So we have dicots, right, with their differences. Okay? From the monocots. Now monocots have parallel venation. Okay, so the primary veins are parallel. So in this leaf here, okay, we have a midrib or main vein here. You can see that the leaves veins run parallel to each other. Okay, remember other aspects of monocots? You have one cotyledon or seed leaf when the seed germinates. You also have the fact that the seed develops fibrous roots when it germinates. Fibrous roots where you have many small rootlets coming out of the base of the stem, right? You also have the fact that monocots have scattered vascular bundles in their stem. And now we find out that monocots have parallel venation. Okay, now we're going to take a look at some monocots and dicots here on the side table. Okay, so here we have the same kukui that we looked at before, okay, with its alternate leaf arrangement, right? So I wanted to show you that again because we just went over phyllotaxy, alternate leaf arrangement in the kukui. Here we have Achaea. Okay, Achaea has opposite leaf arrangement, okay, where you have 2 leaves at each node, 2 leaves at each node, okay. So Achaea is a native Hawaiian plant. It's actually a native endemic. This is Wixomia uva ursi. Okay, it has 4 petals in its flower. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to show you a couple of examples of phyllotaxy. Now we come to leaf venation. Okay. So here we have a leaf of croton. I got croton because I wanted to show you that that the leaves don't always have to be green. The green chlorophylls can be masked by other pigments such as anthocyanins, like in this one. This kind of purplish red is probably from an anthocyanin, which is a water-soluble pigment. Okay? And then what you have here is you have the veins coming off, right, to the side of the mid vein. So this is an example of a dicot that has pinnate leaf venation. Okay, pinnate netted venation. All right. Now this is ava. Okay, Piper methysticum. And what it has here, it has palmate venation. Okay, you can look at it from the other side. The main veins of this leaf come off of one point. Okay, like the fingers off the palm of your hand, right? So this is an example of palmate venation, okay, in ava. Not just that, is this leaf is also heart-shaped, and they call it cordate, okay, cordate or heart-shaped. So those are two examples of dicot leaves, okay? Now we have here an example of a monocot leaf. This is tea leaf, yeah, from tea, Cordyline fruticosa, okay? And if you were to turn it over, you can see that the leaf veins run parallel. They actually run off the side of the main vein or the mid vein, but they actually are parallel to each other. The secondary veins are parallel to each other, so definitely a monocot leaf. And this here leaf is from money tree, okay? You can see that this one here is sessile. This leaf comes right off the stem, okay? So this one doesn't have a petiole, okay? And it has parallel venation where the veins run parallel to the mid vein, right? So we have two examples of monocots. Another quick and easy way that you can sometimes tell a monocot from a dicot is that sometimes monocots, the leaves tend to be more than twice as long as they are wide, okay? Whereas dicots are what they call broadleaves, yeah? So that's a quick and easy way to tell the difference, like a generalization. So it's not true in all circumstances, but it's true in, you know, most circumstances, okay? So let's get back to the computer. Okay, here we are again. Okay, now the internal structure of a dicot leaf. Remember, we have the epidermis, which covers all the external parts of the plant. Okay, so here you have the leaf epidermis, okay, 1 cell thick, okay, and it covers the entire leaf surface, right? And what it does, it tends to protect the mesophyll. So this is the upper epidermis here, the lower epidermis here. The lower epidermis sometimes tends to be thinner than the upper epidermis, and there are usually more stomates in the lower epidermis, but we'll get into that in a little bit, okay? So the epidermis has a layer of cuticle. Remember, cuticle is made of wax and cutin. It kind of waterproofs the leaf and keeps the plant from losing too much water. So this actually is supposed to depict cuticle. Now the epidermal cells are non-pigmented. They do not have chloroplasts. Okay, the only cells in the epidermis that has chloroplasts are the guard cells of the stomate. Okay. So let's see, so then sometimes you can also have glands, okay, on the surface of the leaf, which often secrete sticky substances, okay. So some plants have stomates on the bottom only part of the leaf, some have bottom and on the top part of the leaf, and some rare, you know, not really rare, but like water lilies, of course, will have all their stomates on the top surface because, of course, their bottom surface is right in contact with the water. And remember that stomates are for gas exchange, okay? So there may be 6,300 to 8 million stomates per square inch on a leaf, okay? Amazing fact, see? So here's a stomate. This is actually like a cross-section. If you looked at it before, you saw that it looked like a mouth. Stoma means mouth, right? So a stomate actually has a cross-section here showing the two guard cells and the stomate. Okay. Now the mesophyll is a middle leaf. It's the part that's between the upper and lower epidermis. Okay. Most of the photosynthesis takes place in the mesophyll. Okay. Now the upper part of it has these barrel-shaped or column-shaped cells known as the palisade cells or the palisade layer. Okay, there could be 80% of the leaf's chloroplasts could be in the palisade layer. Okay, this is where most of the light reactions happen. Okay, so we have the palisade cells in the upper layer, right under the upper epidermis. Remember, the upper epidermis doesn't have any chloroplasts in it. Here you have the palisade cells. And then you have the spongy cells. These are cells that are sometimes irregular in shape and they have lots of air spaces in it. What the spongy cells do is they absorb carbon dioxide that enters through the stomate from usually the bottom surface of the leaf. Okay? And then you have veins. Okay? Veins are made up of xylem and phloem. This is a vascular tissue inside of the leaf. Here's like a vascular bundle. Okay, so the vascular bundle oftentimes is surrounded by parenchyma cells. It's known as the bundle sheath. These are the cells of the bundle sheath. Okay, and this is a vein. Okay. Now here we have a nice color photograph of a dicot leaf cross-section. Okay. Here we have the epidermis, the cuticle on top of that, which is kind of stained pinkish. Then we have like 2 layers of palisade cells. You can have 1 or 2 or 3 layers of palisade cells depending on the leaf. Then here we have the spongy cells. Here we have the mid vein, the main vein of the leaf. Okay. And here we have the vascular bundles, which are smaller. Okay, which are the veins in the leaf. The lower epidermis, and you can actually even see here, right here, a stomate with the 2 guard cells. Okay. Now in terms of the internal structure of a monocot leaf, there's no differentiation in the mesophyll. You just have mesophyll cells. They're not differentiated into palisade and spongy layers. Okay, with the parallel veins, you can see they're kind of evenly spaced apart from each other, even from this mid vein. Okay, some have these bulliform cells, so these are bulliform cells, and what they'll do is they'll collapse when it's hot and dry, when the plant has lost some water. What that'll make the leaf do, when the bulliform cells collapse, the leaf will either fold or curl up. Okay, so what that is that they have developed this adaptation so that they can reduce transpiration or loss of water from the leaves. Okay. Now specialized leaves include shade leaves. Okay, so on one tree leaves may be different. Okay, so shade leaves get less light and they're larger than the ones that are in the light. The shade leaves are thinner and have fewer chloroplasts usually. This is an oak leaf. Okay, the leaves of dry places are adapted to limited water, wide ranges of temperatures, high light. Okay, they've developed adaptations so they can thrive in these dry environments, such as thick, leathery leaves like this ficus, succulent leaves like of this aloe, no leaves, spines instead like this cactus. And in some cases, you have some dense, hairy surfaces, like you saw in that kukui leaf. Okay? And now leaves of wet places. Okay, they have less xylem. Okay, the mesophyll has lots of air spaces, and that's called parenchyma. So you can actually see here a leaf of a water plant between the finger and thumb of a person, so you can actually see the air spaces of parenchyma in this leaf from a water plant. Okay, now tendrils that are from leaves, that are specialized leaves, occur in squashes, melons, and cucumbers. Okay, and in these plants, tendrils may be a whole foot long. Wow, that's long, right? It makes them strong and flexible. Okay, and allows the plant to be protected from high winds. Remember the tendrils of grapes that we talked about before? Those are actually modified stems, but the tendrils that we're talking about now are actually modified leaves. Okay. Now spines, thorns, and prickles, we talked about that last time. So spine is like the leaf of a cactus. Okay. They have decreased water loss because there are no stomates on the spine. and they offer protection against animals who might eat them. Okay, because cactuses can be eaten. They have high water loss. Okay. Now thorns are a stem modification. We talked about them last time. Okay. And they occur in Chiave or mesquite. Prickles are outgrowths from the epidermis. We talked about that before too. And they occur in roses and also raspberries. Okay. Other specialized stems specialized leaves include succulent leaves, okay, which store water in large vacuoles, like the jade plant. Okay. Then we have fleshy leaves that are full of carbohydrates that are used by the plant during rapid growth for the next season. And we've seen onions before, right? So onions are examples of fleshy leaves. Now reproductive leaves, you have a plant called Mother of Thousands. That gives you an idea about how prolific it is. It has little notches along the leaf edge where a tiny keiki can be produced, and each little keiki can actually develop into its own plant. Okay? And we also have other specialized leaves called bracts, like in poinsettia, like you see here. These are the actual flowers, and these red parts are not part of the flower. They're actually colored leaves known as bracts. So bracts usually function as petals in plants that do not have colorful petals. Bougainvillea also has colored bracts. Okay. Okay, continuing with specialized leaves. We have insect traps, and this is pretty interesting. Okay, they're generally plants that live in swamps and bogs. Okay, there are about 200 to 400 species of flowering plants of tropical and temperate areas, and they live in nitrogen and other deficient soils, or the nitrogen or other deficiencies are not available to the plants. So when they digest the animals, the missing elements are furnished. Okay, so all these plants can do photosynthesis, and they all can actually do very well, right, if you actually give them the nutrients they need. All right, so they all do well. So we have pitcher plants. Okay, so here you can see the little mouths of the pitcher plants. Okay, they're vase-like structures, leaves, vase-like leaves that have that actually secrete a nectar on the rim that attracts insects. Okay, here's a pitcher plant with a little lid to it. Okay, it attracts insects, and the insects go inside, and then they fall into a little pool of water and digestive enzymes. Okay, and if they try to crawl out, the sides of the walls are slippery, waxy. So what they'll do is they'll slip and they'll slide. And not only that, even if they do get back to the mouth of the pitcher plant, there are sharp points pointing down. So the insects pretty much are trapped and they'll drown, and then their soft parts are digested. Okay. Now sundews have leaves that have these glandular hairs on them. They're small plants. They're only about 1 or 2 inches in diameter. Okay. So this glandular hair secretes a sticky fluid, okay, with digestive enzymes in them. They sparkle in the sunlight, which might be a way they attract insects. Okay. So when insects are attracted to them and they touch them, they get stuck to the exudate. And then the leaf is very sensitive and will bend inward, thereby trapping and then digesting the insect. Now Venus's flytraps are native to North and South Carolina. Okay, that's the only places in the world that they occur naturally. They too are relatively small plants. They have this little hinge in the midrib of the leaf. Okay, they're like a little steel trap. Okay, with these phalanges on the side. Right? And what they'll do is they have these little trigger hairs in here, and if the insect hits 2 or 3 of them consecutively, the trap will kind of shut, and the insect is trapped, and then it will exude digestive juices, and then digest the insect. Okay? Now the fourth kind of so-called carnivorous plants are the bladderworts. Okay? These are plants of streams and of lakes. Right? So what they'll do is they have these little bladders, okay? And these little bladders have little hairs at one end, right? And what happens is that the insect, if it touches one of the hairs, the trapdoor actually opens and it sucks water in and sucks the insect in along with it, and then the trap snaps shut, and then the insect gets trapped and then digested, okay? Okay, so why don't we look at some of these leaf adaptations that we talked about? Okay, here we are. First of all, we have this bougainvillea. Okay, you can see that this purple part actually looks like it's part of the flower, but it's not. It's actually, the flowers are these red parts here, which haven't opened yet. These are just flower buds, but they will be open and they will be sort of like a creamy white color. Okay, so the bracts of this plant, bougainvillea, just like bracts of other plants like the poinsettia, will function in order to attract pollinators to the flowers. Okay, because pollinators are needed to move pollen from one flower to another flower. Okay, so bougainvillea is an example of bracts. And here we have an example of a leaf adaptation that we didn't really talk about, but this is a leaf of koa-ie or koa-ia, all right, a relative to the native koa. Both koa and koa-ie are both native only to Hawaii, all right. So when the plant is young, it has leaves that are bipinnately compound, like this royal poinciana. This is not koa or acacia koa or acacia koa-ia, but it's actually Delanex regia, the royal poinciana. But the koa has juvenile leaves that are bipinnately compound like these, okay? But as the leaves mature, the petioles actually expand and flatten out and become the part that does most of the photosynthesis. So this leaf adaptation is called a phylode, okay? P-H-Y-L-L-O-D-E, okay? So acacia koa, acacia koa-ia, they both have phyllodes that do most of the photosynthesis. Now another leaf adaptation which we talked about before, we showed before, were these spines, okay? These spines at the areoles of this cactus. Okay, so these areoles are actually the nodes along the stem of the cactus. And the cactus stem is actually modified for photosynthesis, so the leaves, or the spines, which are the modified leaves, do not do photosynthesis. So the leaves of the cactus actually serve to both conserve water, because it doesn't have stomate, so it doesn't lose water, right, thereby. And so what they'll do is they'll also protect the plant against foragers, against any kind of animal that would want to eat the cactus, because the cactus is generally edible. It has a lot of water in it. Okay, so a lot of animals of the desert would just love to eat cacti if they could. Okay. Now this plant here is Echeveria. Okay, and this here has these succulent leaves, these thick, leathery, succulent leaves. Okay. And what we have here is we have a leaf that had become detached, okay, from the mother plant, and you can see there's like a little roots growing from it. Okay, these little roots growing from it. So if you wanted to propagate the leaf, if by chance you knock the leaf off the plant, you can actually just stick it into the medium and it'll grow into another plant. Okay. And that's actually what happened to this plant with its succulent leaves. This is, I think, is also another Echeveria. Has very thick succulent leaves, as you can see, and they're easily knocked off. And if they are, you can actually stick them back into the pot. That's how come I got so many of them here. It actually started off with one plant that a student gave to me about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. A student gave me a nice rosette of this Echeveria. Of course, by the time I got it home, some of the leaves had fallen out, so I thought, what the heck? So I stuck them in the pot. So this is one of 3 pots. This is the smallest pot of Echeverias I have, and all of the little plants actually came from sticking a leaf that had fallen off into it, and the other pots are bigger, and they're all full of these little plants. So I could make a bed of them if I wanted to. Okay? Now this, of course, is aloe or aloe. Okay? So this plant has these succulent leaves, all right? And if you actually break a leaf of this, It has this kind of ooze to it, which is very good for your for burns. You could just actually break it off and rub it on your skin. It's supposed to be a good skin conditioner, good hair conditioner, you know. Except for me, I'm allergic to it, okay? And aloe is another plant that you can take both internally and externally, okay? Except I can't take it internally or externally because it makes me sick. I once took a aloe supplement, you know, for my digestion because I was having digestive difficulties. And so I took 2 capsules one night and I felt a little itchy, but I didn't really think about it. And the next morning they say to take 4 capsules, so I took 4 capsules, and my goodness, I broke out in welts all over my body. It was just awful. It was itching and itching. It was like having really bad chickenpox or measles, you know. I even had little red welts on my hands, the palms of my hands and the soles of my feet, on my face, all over, probably on my scalp. I had to take prednisone, which is a corticosteroid, because I had a severe allergic reaction to aloe. So I can't use shampoo with aloe because I get blisters on my scalp. I can't take anything internally with aloe for fear of getting that allergic reaction again. So this is just a warning. So if you want to dose yourself with medicinal things, what you want to do is make sure that you test it first and make sure that you know what you're doing, you know. Don't go into it whole hog without knowing enough about it. Okay. Then lastly, we have this onion, okay, which is that stem adaptation where it actually stores carbohydrates. And you can see it has these lines going up and down the side. Those are the parallel veins in these leaves. Remember, these are leaves, right? Fleshy leaves. So you have these parallel veins going up and down, okay? Okay, so that's it for here. So we're going to go back to the computer. Okay, so here we are. Okay, so first of all, chlorophyll breaks down. Okay, so the chloroplasts have green chlorophylls and also carotenoids, which we talked about before. Yellow carotenes and pale yellow xanthophylls. Okay, usually the leaf is intense green of chlorophylls and it masks other pigments. Okay, now in fall, autumnal foliage, you have anthocyanins and beta-cyanins may accumulate in the vacuoles of leaf cells. Okay, so anthocyanins can be reddish or they can be blue or a color in between, depending if the cell sap inside the vacuoles are acid, then they're red, or if they're alkaline, then they're blue. Okay, and if they're sort of in between, okay, they'll be more purple. All right, now beta-cyanins, okay, are usually red, and they're restricted to the cactus family, the goosefoot family, the 4 o'clock family, and the portulaca family. Okay, so those are really that common. Now, abscission is a process by which leaves are shed. It's a seasonal loss of leaves. That would you call deciduousness. So in temperate areas, plants lose their leaves during the cool season. And in the tropical areas, plants lose their leaves during the dry season. Okay, the cycles coincide with the dry season. Okay. Now some uses of plants. Okay, we have shade trees that are used for cooling and also for appearances. We have plants that are used for food, such as cabbage, lettuce, spinach, and celery. So cabbage and spinach, obviously we eat we usually eat the blade of the plant, okay? But celery are actually petioles that we eat, okay? So these are a few of the food plants that we eat, okay? Other uses include herbs, okay? So many herbs and flavorings come from leaves, such as thyme, oregano, tarragon, dill, and sage. Okay, now dyes come from plants also. Yellow comes from bearberry, and locally you can get a yellow dye from olena, also known as turmeric, Cucurma longa. Red can come from henna. Okay, you know those henna drawings that brides make on their hands, yeah, and their feet. And locally, you can get a rose-colored colorant from akala or Hawaiian raspberry. Blue can come from blue ash, and locally, Hawaiians got a blue colorant from uki uki, Dianella samwichensis, or olapa lapa, the bark from olapa lapa. A tan dye can come from kukui, and green can come from ma'o. Okay, people use some of these colorants for kapa or bark cloth. Now, cordage is another use. Okay, so 80% of the world's production of cordage comes from agave. Okay, now sansevieria also is a source of bowstring fibers, and the leaves of uki uki can be scraped for fibers. Okay, now thatching. We have peely grass locally were used for thatching houses. When you the hale, when you have the grass and you dry it, it smells very sweet and has very sweet fragrance. And Hawaiian people, like people the world over, like sweet fragrances. Okay. Also, the Yareta plant also was used for thatching. Okay, I think in the Americas. Okay, in the tropics. And we have oils from leaves also. Okay, lavender for soaps and colognes, patchouli and lemongrass for perfumes, and eucalyptus has medicinal properties, both internally and externally also, right? You can actually take eucalyptus in a cough drop. The methylation is from eucalyptus. Also a Vicks Vapor Rub that you can rub on your chest and on your back when you have congestion. That also has eucalyptus in it, also menthol. Okay? So it can be used externally as well as internally. Now we have drugs that come from leaves. Okay? Cocaine is from the coca plant. Okay, it's a local anesthetic. I knew somebody, I had a friend who knew someone who had a cavity in his tooth. And the cavity kept getting worse and worse. And what he used to do illegal drugs. So he used to pack cocaine into the cavity, you know. And the infection got so bad that it went all the way into his jaw. And he had to have surgery on his jaw to get rid of the rotten tissue. Okay, don't do this. That's not a smart thing to do. Okay, so local anesthetics that people use for dentistry is from cocaine too, like Novocaine and Lidocaine is from the coca plant. Okay, belladonna is from deadly nightshade. The active principle is called atropine. It dilates your eyes. So if you go and get an eye examination, they put the eye drops in your eyes, and your pupil dilates really big. Okay, that's from the atropine. Okay, and then what that does too is that it also relieves local pain. Okay, and can be used to slow secretions in surgery. Okay, now digitalis is from foxglove, and it has been used as a heartbeat and blood circulation regulator for a long time. That actually comes from folk medicine. Okay, other drugs include tobacco. Okay, we know about tobacco. So for tobacco, 2 billion pounds annually are produced, okay, around the world, right? So smoking tobacco, chewing tobacco, and snuff. And now, of course, now we have these e-cigarettes, okay? And for marijuana, you know, the active principle is THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, right? So I was wondering whether people can also have e-cigarettes for marijuana too. Maybe if they do legalize it or decriminalize it, then maybe that'll keep it from bothering other people who don't like to be intoxicated with marijuana smoke from other people's cigarettes. Like if you live in an apartment, okay? Now aloe, okay, the exudate is used for burns as well as to aid digestion. So this is another plant that actually can be used internally as well as externally. Okay, we also have beverages, okay, from leaves. Tea is the most widely consumed beverage in the world. Of course, when you think about it, okay, it's the beverage of choice for Chinese people, it's the beverage of choice for Indian people, and a lot of Southeast Asians. Okay, that's a good population of the world. I think the 3 most populous countries in the world actually are India, China, and Indonesia, I think, right? So tea, the most popular beverage in the world. Okay. Now mate is another beverage made from the twigs and the leaves of a holly relative in South America. Tequila, everybody knows tequila, comes from agave. Absinthe, which has enjoyed a resurgence recently, is from wormwood. Okay, so absinthe has a lot of romanticism attached to it, because absinthe was popular in the cafes of Paris during the time of the Impressionists. You know, so there's actually a painting, I think, by Renoir called A Glass of Absinthe. Was it Renoir? Was it somebody else? Anyway, so you have a picture, a portrait of a woman who's kind of sitting with a kind of faraway look in her eyes. She looks tired, and there's a glass of absinthe in front of her. They used to have like a little ceremony where they'd have the absinthe in a cup, and then they'd put a sugar cube over a slotted spoon over it, and pour water over the sugar cube, and that was like a little ceremony that they made before they drank it. Yeah, so that was a big part of the culture of Paris in the 1800s and into the early 1900s. Okay. Now, leaves are also used for insecticides, such as rotenone is gotten from some leaves. Okay. Nicotine is also an insecticide. Nicotine is actually one of the most addictive substances known. It's also a poison. As you can see, it's used as an insecticide. We also have the cockroach plant. The dried leaves are used for killing roaches, flies, fleas, and lice. Sounds pretty good, huh? And the neem tree can actually kill more than 100 species of insects, mites, and nematodes with not very much effect on useful predator organisms. So that sounds like a dream tree. I heard that people say that it's like a sacred tree, you know? Now waxes, such as carnauba wax, okay, are from the leaves of tropical palms. These are also used as foliage for floral arrangements, okay? And then we have leaf curd. You can actually use leaf as a direct source of food. So leaf curd is a coagulating juice from alfalfa leaves. Now alfalfa is more than 40% protein. There's medicago or alfalfa here on this side, okay? So the juices from leaves of other plants have more than 50% protein. Now what they're trying to do is make it palatable or tasty for people, okay? So to make it more tasty for people to use and eat. Okay, now we have the review. We went through the leaf and its functions. We went through simple and compound leaves. We went through specialized leaves, deciduous leaves, and the uses of leaves. Okay, that's all we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation on the leaf. Okay, and we'll see you next time. Aloha.